at the edge of the world, a continent of ice and darkness, Antarctica, where the cold doesn't just kill, it pushes every creature to the limits of survival. Temperatures plunge to 60 degrees. Winds scream across desolate ice fields. Here, sunlight is a luxury. Nights stretch for months. Every breath is a battle. Every step, a gamble. Here, only the strongest, most intelligent predators will endure. Welcome to the frozen edge of the world. This is not a land for the timid. This is Antarctica, the final proving ground. If you love exploring nature's greatest battles and its beauty, don't forget to hit subscribe and support us here at Wildlife Documentary Hub. And it all starts right now. Under the thick, frozen ice, something moves. No sound, no splash, just a shadow. That's the leopard seal, the most silent, most calculated predator in Antarctica. It's over 10 feet long, with muscle packed under dappled gray skin. Its teeth, like steel saws. Its eyes, cold, focused, unblinking. It hunts alone. No packs, no partners, just instinct and patience. And that's exactly what makes it deadly. The leopard seal isn't chasing after prey like some frenzied beast. It waits, watches, times everything. Beneath an ice shelf, it stays perfectly still, scanning the water above. Then a flicker, a young penguin gliding past, maybe a newborn seal, and that's all it needs. In a flash, it lunges, faster than you'd think for something that size. 25 miles an hour underwater. One strike, one bite. That's it. It's not brute force that kills. T's precision, control, timing, and when something threatens it doesn't roar or flail. It vanishes, slips into deeper water, then circles back from where you least expect. But even top predators miss. Not every lunge is a success. Not every hunt ends with a meal. Sometimes they go days without food. Sometimes they get injured. And sometimes there's something bigger in the water. Because when a pod of killer whales moves in, the leopard seal goes from hunter to hunted. There's always something watching, something stronger. Every breath near the surface could be its last. The leopard seal isn't the biggest animal out here, or the fastest, or the loudest. But it's a survivor, because it knows when to wait, when to strike, and when to disappear. In a land where rushing gets you killed, survival isn't about brute strength. It's about patience, awareness, efficiency. It doesn't need to dominate. It just needs to endure, one perfect move at a time. But in these frigid waters, what happens when patience meets power? When precision faces off against coordination? Because not far off, another shadow rises, a much bigger one. The surface breaks. A black fin cuts through the icy water. Tall, sharp, unmistakable. That's no fish. That's the orca, the killer whale, the ferocious predator, up to 30 feet long, nearly 6 tons of raw, streamlined power. But don't be fooled by size. This isn't just muscle. It's a mind. The orca doesn't just hunt, it plans. It learns. It leads. Unlike the leopard seal, the orca doesn't hunt solo. It rolls with a crew, a herd, like a family of wolves. But in the sea, and when they move, it's like choreography. Each one plays a role. Every move is calculated. And together, they execute something called wave washing. They spot a seal resting on an ice floe. Then, here it comes. They swim fast in formation, pushing water ahead of them. A wave builds, crashes. The seal slides into the sea. Now it's surrounded. Split-second flanking. No escape. One bite. Instant silence. But orcas aren't just smart in the moment. They pass down techniques. Every pod has its own hunting culture, a dialect, even traditions. Young orcas learn from their mothers. Every skill is practiced, every lesson remembered. But even kings have limits. As ice melts, their hunting grounds shift. Food sources move farther away. The strategies that worked for generations don't always work now. They're swimming longer distances, facing louder seas, and more unpredictable patterns. Sometimes they miss. Sometimes they lose calves to inexperience, or to the very seals they once hunted. The top spot is never guaranteed. Even here, the throne is earned. Every single day, orcas are the perfect mix of brain and brawn, but it's their teamwork that makes them dominant. They don't just survive. They adapt together. They show us that strength isn't just physical. It's about communication, connection, and the ability to evolve when the rules change. Because in the coldest corners of the planet, the ones who last are the ones who learn. The orca may rule the sea, but not all survival is about teeth and speed. Sometimes it's about something far simpler, staying still. Do you think so? Because just a few miles inland, another species is fighting a different kind of war. Not with strength, but with stillness. Not in the water, but on the ice. They come in silence, tiny black and white figures, barely visible against the endless white. Thousands of them, marching together. No leader, no weapons, just instinct and resolve. This is the emperor penguin, the only bird that breathes through the dead of the Antarctic winter. Not the strongest, not the fastest, but in many ways, the most relentless. When the cold sets in, the kind of cold that cracks ice open, the females leave for the ocean. The males stay behind, each one balancing a single fragile egg on top of their feet. For 2 months, they don't eat, they don't sit, they don't run, they just stand, huddled close, sharing warmth in an ever-shifting circle. Every few hours, they rotate. The ones on the outside move in, and the ones in the middle step out to face the wind. It's not pretty. It's not dramatic. It's survival, stripped to its purest form. Blizzards roll in with winds over 100 miles per hour. The sky disappears. The cold becomes something physical, something crushing. Some eggs are lost. Some fathers collapse from exhaustion. Some chicks never hatch. And when spring finally comes, and the sun rises again, The survivors must still face what waits in the water. The chicks take their first dive into oceans filled with predators. Leopard seals, orcas, and hunger. One misstep, one wrong ritual, and their journey ends before it begins. But most of them make it, not because they outrun danger, but because they endure it. Together, the emperor penguin is a lesson in quiet strength. No claws, no teeth, no speed, only patience, unity, and unshakable will. They show us that sometimes survival isn't loud. It's slow, it's painful, and it's deeply, deeply powerful. We have just seen the emperor penguin survive by unity, by silence. Now let's come to the king of the sky, giant petrel. Up above, where the cold wind never stops moving, stillness means something else entirely. Up there, survival is about timing, watching, waiting, and knowing exactly when to strike. In the sky above Antarctica, a different predator rules. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. With wings stretching over 6 feet, the giant petrel glides low over the snow, a shadow that comes and goes with the wind. Its hooked beak is made for tearing. Its eyes scan miles of white with quiet calculation. Most call it a scavenger, but make no mistake, it's also a hunter, and it knows weakness when it sees it. The petrel doesn't chase. It follows. It trails blizzards. It circles rookeries. It waits for what the ice leaves behind. A chick left behind in the snow. A seal pup separated from its mother. A predator wounded in a fight. And then it dives. Not fast, but sure. Wings slicing the wind. It lands, grabs, and pulls. One moment of hesitation from its prey, and it's over. No second chances, no mercy. But life in the sky is just as brutal as life below. The petrel may own the air, but storms can turn the wind against it in seconds. A misjudged gust, a failed landing, a hunt that ends in injury, or worse, exposure. Young petrels learn the hard way. First flights in 60 net pH winds. No guidance, no safety nets. Just instinct and open sky. Some don't return. But the ones that do, remember, the giant petrel is a creature of endurance, not in stillness, like the penguin, but in motion, endless, searching, patient motion. It teaches us that not all strength is obvious. Sometimes it's in the willingness to wait, to let the world unfold, and to act not when it's easy, but when it matters most. The giant petrel rules with size, with speed, with savagery. But there's another kind of power in Antarctica. Smaller, faster, smarter. Because sometimes the key to survival isn't overwhelming force. It's knowing when to cheat and how to get away with it. It's not big. It's not graceful. And it certainly doesn't play fair. But in the frozen water, the South Polar skua has carved out a niche, not by dominating, but by outsmarting everyone else. It's a thief, a bully, and sometimes a hunter. Most of all, it's a survivor. The skua doesn't have a signature move. It doesn't need one, because its weapon isn't power. It's unpredictability. It watches penguin colonies enemies from above, scans for moments of distraction. A parent turns its back. A chick wanders too far. That's when the skua strikes. Fast, sharp, ruthless. One swoop, one bite, and it's gone. No fight, no fuss. It even targets giants, stealing scraps from petrels, harassing seals too weak to fight back. Whatever it needs, however it can, but being small and clever doesn't make it invincible. The Antarctic wind punishes the light and fragile, and every year, fewer safe places remain to nest, to hide, to return to. Still, the skua remembers old hunting grounds, old tricks, old paths through the storm. Every migration, it comes back. Thousands of miles. It's never lost. It's just waiting. The skua is a master of chance. It doesn't follow patterns. It doesn't ask for fairness. It survives by bending the rules. And in this world, that's not cheating. That's nature. The skua reminds us that sometimes it's not the loudest, or the strongest, or the fastest that endures. It's the one who moves quickest, thinks sideways, and never underestimates the power of timing. From the shadows beneath the ice to the storms above the snow, every creature in this frozen wilderness fights a battle of survival, each one with its own weapon, its own story, its own truth. Some use strength, others use speed, a few use silence, and many rely on strategy. But all share one lesson. Survival isn't just for the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest. It's for the smartest, the most adaptable, the most determined, just like us. In the wild rhythms of the natural world, we see reflections of ourselves, our struggles, our resilience, our instincts to protect, to provide, to persevere. So as you step away from the cold wild, take this with you. In a world that constantly changes, adaptability isn't just an advantage, it's everything. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the frozen edge of life. If this inspired you, share it with someone who needs a reminder of what resilience looks like. Support our work by subscribing to Wildlife Documentary Hub, where nature's fiercest stories continues. Until next time, stay wild and stay curious.